I'd like to welcome you here today to Yahweh's Truth and to our identity studies. And actually, when you look at everything, it is Yahweh's truth, because everything is from Yahweh. He said, I am the light, the truth, and the way. And this is what it's all about. I'm James Wickstrom, a teacher of Yahweh for over 30 years, to the lost sheep of the house of Jacob, Israel, who are the white Western European peoples and nations of the world. We're going to have a dissertation here today that I believe is going to be educational, as it should be. It's going to be very informative. And it could probably be produced or given on any lecture forum, on any what you would call seminary, Bible college, or anywhere in the country, because they have never probably seen anything like this. And this is going to be available, of course, it's available on cassette or CD. It's also going to be available on DVD and VHS. We would like at this time to welcome everyone who is going to be listening to the tape or watching it on tape, and to let them know that, you know, we feel that you are here with us. I know you're not, but we are all the family of Yahweh. We'd like to lift up prayers today for Jean Hara down in West Virginia. And Yahweh, we ask, Father, Holy Father, that you send your healing spirit to Gene. He has been a great son of yours, a great soldier in this truth and in this way, in this battle. Father, we ask that you lighten his heart, and if it be thy will, that you will heal him and keep him here for the duration of what is to be. And we call upon the name of Yahweh. For you said, Father, call upon your name and you will hear us, and when two or more gather and speak your name. Father, we thank you for your presence, for hearing this prayer, and to be with us and guide us, and to be with Gene and his family, and his wife, and all the friends near him that comfort him. We ask this in Yahweh, so be it. You know, a lot of people ask the question because it's a study that we could get involved in. The question is, who is the church? Now, close that better. Now, a lot of people believe that because they're Lutherans, it's the Lutheran church. Now, we've gone in this a little, but I have to lay this as a little format this morning, because there's a format I have to lay in order to get to the crux of everything. The Catholics believe they're the church. The Baptists, whichever first, second, third, fourth, fifth, northern, southern, eastern, western, they think they're the church. And it's gotten to a point where you have even the Mormons think they're the church. But actually the church is Yahweh's elect. Not his whole race. It's his elect who knows who he is and who they are. That is his church. He said, remember, my church is not built of wood, stone, or clay. My church is built of my elect, my people, Jacob, Israel, who know me and follow me. It's very important, because we're going to be getting into this today. And as I said, this is a lecture forum today. This is a lecture and a teaching that could be held in any university in the country, of which it isn't. It's going to have that magnitude of information and discoursement. A lot of drama is going to be involved in this. And a lot of understanding into what we call selfishness. In other words, to an individual. Not only to our people, the lost sheep of the house of Jacob, who is surnamed Israel, the white Western European peoples and nations of the world, but on an individual basis is what this knowledge and information is going to be given to. Though even though we gather here in a body elect, it is still an individual discoursement that I'm going to give to each of you as you sit here or watch on the tape or share it with someone else. Now, we are the church, because Yahweh said, ye are my flesh of flesh, blood of blood, bone of bone, and spirit of spirit. You are my church, you are my elect, you are my people. Now you see, you can't say that about all the people on the earth. You can say blood of blood, bone of bone, flesh of flesh, but you can't say spirit of spirit, because they are not of us, and they didn't have that spirit blown into their nostrils or into their etheric being as we do as a people. Only Yahweh gave that to Adam. We are celestial. We are heavenly celestial. They are astral, or what you call earthly. Their dimensional energy that they give off is only earthly. Okay? And they have a magnetic energy, but it's only terrestrial. Ours is celestial. There's a big difference, and that's why the beings on this earth are not all of Adam and Eve, or we'd all be the same. Because it's only what comes out of Adam and Eve as an entity, such as Seth, okay? That's the offspring, output of Adam and Eve. That's all they can produce. You take two white people, you get a white person. That's it, the purity of who they are. Now, of course, in the adverse church world, they say that everyone came from Adam and Eve. Now, you've got to use common sense, and we've got to use logic here. Okay? You know, there's an old saying, you are what you eat. If you eat bad, you're sick. Is this correct? A lot of people say, well, you know, it wasn't my fault that my father was a black and my mother was an Oriental and I'm the result. You know, that's not my fault. No, it isn't. But he says the children shall suffer for the sins of their parents, and kind after kind, and the law of stability and genetics was broke. This is what it's all about. And this is what we have to keep in mind today. But today we're going to go into the Lion of Judah. Now this is very important. This is extremely important for you to know. It's going to encompass flags and symbols. It's going to encompass knowledge of people. It's going to encompass a carriage of understanding of history of what we are all about as a people. And we're going to be going into these discoursements today, and we're going to be sharing these with each other. And how long this is going to take today, I really don't know. But I do have a prayer to our Father Yahweh that He allows me and uses me to deliver this dialogue of understanding and wisdom to the simplest of my understanding, so that the penetration of this knowledge is going to have an impact on anybody and everybody who has the availability to see the DVD, the VHS, or whatever of what is going to be explained here. What you are going to be shown here has never been shown in a university. It has never been shown in a college. It has never really been shown and told about in any church, if you want to call it an alien species of church. This belongs to Yahweh, number one, and it belongs to His elect who understand who they are and who's who and who's Jew. That's right. So we're going to be getting into this, and the reason I had to cover this today is because it's very, very important. I have a lot of visual aids we're going to use today. We're going to have fun today. To learn is to have fun. Not having truth presented to you is when people get angry and they get fed up and they don't really understand what's going around them, okay? What's going on around them. Now, this is very, very important. Extremely important. What we have here is we have a chronicle of time that we're going to talk about. You know, there's an old saying, history can only take place again if people don't understand it. Or those who understand history will not allow the same thing to happen to them as has happened to us and to our nation. We know now who stole our money. We know what has taken place in this country throughout the years because of meticulous study and time to study. And the Father commanded you. Now this was a commandment. Study to prove yourself worthy. Study. I have over 32 years of study involved and teaching. Now it's nice to glean, and a teacher is a priest of Yahweh, is a teacher of Yahweh. That's all it means. It's not holy Gibeah garb, okay? It's not wearing the black robe and have everyone come down and do their little bow in front of you and kiss your ring and all this other stuff or whatever else they kiss. All right? It means a teacher of Yahweh. A teacher of Yahweh, number one. A teacher of history of Yahweh's people, number two. A teacher of Yahweh's laws, statutes, ordinances, and judgments, number three. That's exactly what a teacher is all about. And to be a teacher, you had best understand you're going to have to study and understand what's going on, what has happened, what is happening, what is planned to be happening. It's just something that doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time of studying and research. Now we're going to open up today here. I'd like to start in Genesis 17, if you would open with me. We're going to have a wonderful time today. We're going to go through this Bible, what they call the Bible, what the Catholics call the Bible, the Holy Biblica, the Book of the Sun, S-U-N. People don't know that. But we're going to go through these books. There's only 66 presented to us here, even though Enoch wrote 360 books. All right? Enoch himself wrote 360 books. And then there's a book of Jasher, and there's a book of many of the prophets, Adu, okay? And many prophets that you have read about in here, the books aren't even presented yet, but they're talked about as being prophets of true Israel. They're not available to us. They're probably down in the Vatican, down in the catacombs of their library, or they're buried over in the basement of the Museum of History in England. We don't need them, because Yahweh has given us enough pieces in order to formulate and understand who He is and who we are as a people. Now, as we go to chapter 17, do you need a book? Okay, we're in chapter 17 of Genesis, and I want you to focus in. I want you to focus in on verse 6. And Yahweh is talking to Abram. He is about to change his name from Abram to Abraham. Just like Sarah's name was Sarai before she was called Sarah, and Yahweh changed her name. Okay? And it says in verse 6, it says, and I will make thee, because he just changed his name to Abraham in verse 5, I will make thee exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of you, and kings shall come out of you. So in other words, we're talking now a promise that is being made to Abraham. In fact, chapter 17 is the Abrahamic covenant. This is what our entire existence and our safety is built upon, is chapter 17 of Genesis. Everyone refers to the covenant of Abraham, the Abrahamic covenant, and then was handed down to Isaac. And from Isaac it said to all his seed after him, this covenant would be handed down of protection and blessings. This is what this is all about. But you'll notice in verse 6, Yahweh is making a covenant and a promise to Abraham. I will make nations, plural, out of your children, and kings shall come out of you. Jews never had kings. Jews never had nations until they stole the land of Palestine through the phony Balfour Declaration in the mid-1940s to steal the land of Palestine. Okay? They never had nations, plural, and they never had kings, plural, that came out of them. This is very important, because the Jews, as we call Jews today, of Edom, Esau, the Herodonians, they say that they're Judah, and that they're the royal tribe of the house of Jacob, Israel, and that they deserve to be the kings of the earth. Okay? This is very important now. I'm laying a format here now, because this is very important. Extremely important. Now, just so we don't sow confusion here and that we don't have the tail wag the dog here, we're going to go all the way up to verse 1 of chapter 17. And when Abram was 90 years and 99 years old, Yahweh appeared unto Abram. Now, I'm going to take Lord out and God out because the translators took the name of Yahweh out because they didn't want anyone to learn His name, especially His true people. And I'm going to put Yahweh's name in where it belongs, okay? And when Abraham was 99, Yahweh appeared to Abram, and He said to him, I am Almighty Yahweh. Walk before me and be thou perfect. Now, being perfect means upright or sincere. That's why you have the book of Jasher. The book of Jasher means the book of the upright. Now, I'm just piecing this for you, for your admonition and learning. Now you understand that the book of Jasher is written to the descendants of Abraham and the history of Abraham prior to Abraham and on through the Abrahamic covenant unto Isaac and to Jacob. That's what the book of Jasher means, the book of the upright. Now, verse 2. And I will make my covenant between me and thee. Now, this is a treaty. This is a treatise. This is a contract. A covenant is a contract. Yahweh is going to make a contract between Abram and Himself. And will multiply thee exceedingly, Yahweh promised him. Verse 3. And Abram fell on his face, and Yahweh talked with him. Can you imagine Yahweh talking, and all of a sudden here comes a voice, and Yahweh speaking with him? I mean, what would you think if you start hearing Yahweh start talking to you and calling, hey, Lucille? I mean, and you knew who it was. Okay, and the power that He has and what He's done and what He's created, okay? And what does it say? And Abram fell on his face, and Yahweh talked with him. And in verse 4, as for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, Abram, and you shall be a father of many nations. This is very important. If you go to your Center Concordance, it means a multitude of nations. Not one. Not Israeli in the Mideast. Remember, Israel is a people, not a landmass. That's the other big truth, mistruth and distortion of understanding. A multitude of nations. Verse 5. Neither shall your name any more be called Abram. See, that's singular. But your name shall be called Abraham. That's plural. For a father of many nations have I made of you. Now, boom, this right now. This is my covenant with you. This is what's going to happen to your offspring, Abraham. No longer are you a singular individual. I am making you a plural individual, from Abram to Abraham, because many nations are going to come from thy loins, saith Yahweh, or of your offspring. Now we go to 6 again. And I will make thee exceedingly fruitful, a lot of people. And I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. Kings are plural. It has to be plural because He said He was going to what? He was going to be the father of many nations. So the kings have to be plural. And I will establish my covenant, verse 7, between me and thee, and your seed or your offspring after you in their generations, for an everlasting covenant which cannot be broken, to be Yahweh unto you and to your children or your seed after you. Everlasting means perpetual. Never to be broken, perpetual. Now, it's very important because you see, our dissertation today is called the Lion of Judah. But actually, we could say the Lions of Judah would be more appropriate and pluralize it. Because as we go into the lecture forum today, you'll understand, even though I called it the Lion of Judah, for the significance of what it's going to be, we could say the Lions of Judah. Okay? Because it's going to be very interesting here. Now, go with me to chapter 19 and go all the way down to verse 19. We're in Genesis 17, verse 19. Now Sarah's there, okay? And Yahweh said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and you shall call his name Isaac. And I, Yahweh, will establish my covenant that he just made with Abraham, with him for an everlasting covenant. Now here's the kicker now. And with his seed after him. It's very important. Now, this is extremely important because Isaac had two sons, Esau and Jacob. Is this correct? Now, that everlasting covenant was forever, but Edom Esau in the 1925 Jewish Encyclopedia says Edom Esau is modern Jewry. And they do have segments of the blood of Esau in them of interracial mongrelization, of miscegenation. But Esau sold his birthright to Jacob. And in selling his birthright, he gave away the everlasting covenant that Yahweh made with Abraham through Isaac and with Isaac's seed after him. This is so important to understand. This is why the Jew comes and says, oh, we be of Abraham's seed. Well, they may have some of the blood of miscegenation, interracial breeding of Edom Esau in them, but they are not pure blood that is so needed. Very important. It is very important. Okay? Okay, now, excuse me. What we're going to do at this time is we're going to go to Genesis 29. We're going to take our time today. As I told you, I really don't know how long this is going to take. As long as it gets done within 2 hours. And we surely want to wish a blessing on Marge and George today as they travel to the south for a family gathering in this harsh weather that's upon us today. May Yahweh protect them in all ways. Now, here we are in Genesis 29, and we're going to go to verses 30 to 35. And it states thus. Now we're talking in the time here of Jacob. Jacob, who was surnamed Israel. And he went in also unto Rachel, and he loved Rachel more than Leah, and served with him yet 7 more years, or with Laban. And when Yahweh saw that Jacob hated Leah, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. He closed the womb of Rachel. Yahweh saw that there was resentment and hate by Jacob against his first wife, okay? And thus, what had happened is that Yahweh said, okay, I'm going to open up the womb, which means he's going to allow her to have children, and because you hate her. But for the one that you love, only because of a fleshly love and desire, I'm going to close her womb. Rachel. And that's what Yahweh did. Now, and in verse 32, and Leah conceived, and she bare a son, or an offspring seed, and she called his name Reuben. And Reuben means, see a son. See a son. She bare a son. For she said, surely Yahweh has looked upon my affliction. What affliction was that? She was hated by Jacob. Jacob didn't like her. He liked her enough to lay with her, but other than that, he didn't like her. So you know it's perfect. Only Yahweh is perfect. And as great as Jacob was, he wasn't perfect either. Now, therefore, my husband will love me. He said, my gosh, I bared him a son. I'm sure he's going to love me now. And she conceived again, and she bare another son or seed, and said, because Yahweh has heard that I was, what? Hated. He has therefore given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon. And Simeon means hearing. Now, you got to understand, Leah was in a real predicament here. She was the wife of Jacob, and Jacob didn't like her. He hated her. And Yahweh knew that he hated her. But he didn't hate her enough not to lay with her. And now she's got two sons. And that was the pride of everything, that the wife was to bear a son for the husband. Is this correct? That the name of Israel would continue in the earth. That's what it's all about. Well, let's go to verse 34. And she conceived again. Boy, he really hated her. And she bare another son, and said, now this time will my husband be joined with me. Still he's pushing her away. This is the third son. Because I have borne him 3 sons, therefore his name shall be called Levi. Which means joined, yes. This is very important. And she conceived again and bare another son. And she said, now will I praise Yahweh. Therefore she called his name Judah, which means praise. And she left from bearing at that time, or stood from bearing. Now the Lion of Judah. Here we have the first entry of that name, Judah. For the format that we're laying here today, for the discoursement and the transformation of information here. It's very important as we come before Yahweh today. And remember, as we gather here, we're the so-called oddballs of society. Because we will not conform with what's going on around us, or with the lies of history, or the lies of finance, or the lies of religion, or the lies of politics. We have become the modern heretics of this ungodly system that we are forced to live in on a daily basis. We are the rebels, or the heretics, against evil. Thus, that's what they call us. But we stand with Yahweh, which is truth. We're the truth light bearers, is what we are. Now, this is where you will first find the name of Judah. Chapter 29, 35, verse of Genesis is where Judah first comes into the historical lineage of Chronicles relating to our people. It's very important because this is the Lion of Judah. He was the 4th born son of Leah, who was hated by Jacob. Is this correct? This is right. Now, we're going to move right along here in our study, and we're going to go to Genesis 38. And as we go to Genesis 38, we are going to go to verses 1 through 30. This is the entire chapter. And why am I going to read the whole chapter? I have to read the whole chapter to lay the foundation of understanding, to put everything into the approximate order. Not just 2 verses, 4 verses. So we're going to start at verse 1 of chapter 38 of Genesis. And it states, and it came to pass at that time that Judah went down from his brothers and turned to a certain Adullamite whose name was Hira. Hira would be what you classify a Jew today in America or anywhere. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua. And he took her and went in unto her. That means he laid with her. And he knew better. He knew better because his father was who? Jacob. Judah knew better than to lay with this mongrel bitch, is what he did. Now let's listen up. Verse 3, and she conceived And she bare a son, and she called his name And she conceived again, and bare a son, and she called his name Onan. And she yet conceived again, and bare a son, and called his name Shelah. And he was at Shizib when she bare him. That is very important. Here you had Judah, and you'll see why it's important in the disgrace that he put upon Jacob. He put the disgrace upon Jacob's wife, his mother, Leah. Because here it is very evident that Judah is a race mixer. And you'll see why it's even worse than any of the other tribes or sons of Jacob as to why he did this. And you'll find in this earth today the majority of the race mixing of the lineage blood of Judah is from the Scots, the Irish, and the Germans that have mixed their blood with other races, just like Judah has done. It's very important, because Yahweh said there's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing happening today that hasn't happened before. A lot of people say, oh, I take that as an insult. You can take it anywhere you want. You can take it to the bank. You can go to the bakery with it. I really don't care. I just told you the truth. The greatest race mixers are the women and men of Scottish, Irish, and German ancestry among our race in the earth. Well, let's continue. Verse 6. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn. Her name was Tamar. And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of Yahweh, and Yahweh slew him. Didn't want to lay with her. He went out and destroyed his seed, and Yahweh slew him. But Yahweh slew him for another reason. He had another, shall we say, another job for Tamar to perform. Tamar was of our race. She was a purebred woman of our race, and Judah was going to have his mongrel son of Canaanitish blood of Judah lay with Tamar and to pollute Tamar. Judah was a drunkard. He was a hell of a warrior, but he loved to drink wine and play around. Nothing different today from the Scots, the Irish, and the Germans. You go in all these bars in this country and see how many percent, the greater and far greater percent of the drunkards in America is of German and Irish and Scottish ancestry. I'm just telling you like it is. Fact. That's what it's all about. They call it a chip off the old block. Or they say that the apple hasn't, what? Fallen far from the tree. Well, let's read on. Verse 8. And then Judah said to Onan, go in unto your brother's wife and marry her and raise up seed to your brother. Here's Judah again, playing his games, taking the other bastard son, the mamzer mongrel, telling him to go to Tamar, who's a pure-blooded daughter of Yahweh, and mongrelize with her. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. And it came to pass, when he went in unto his brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased Yahweh, wherefore Yahweh slew him too. Yahweh killed him. Praise Yahweh. Kill all these damn mongrels. Praise Yahweh. Judah wouldn't do it. And I'm surprised, I was very surprised that as I read this lineage of history, that Jacob is allowing this to happen. Think about it. But you see, everyone's responsible for themselves. You're not responsible for your children. Don't lay there and weep and sleep and slop and everything else over your children. If they're growing and they're adults, they're responsible for their own actions. And don't tell me that they can't come to these studies and learn, or they can't sit at a table and listen to the wisdom that comes from your mouth. It's because they're rebellious and they don't want to. Just like Yahweh said. Well, verse 11. And then said Judah to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain in a widow at your father's house till Selah my son is grown up. because Selah the thirdborn, that little mongrel snake that he had with that Canaanitish woman, which you call a Jew today, was just a little boy, was a little snake. He said, you go back and live with your father until he grows up, and then you belong to him, and you're going to have children with him. He still hasn't got it, see? He still is in the perpetration of mongrelizing the seed of our people. This is not a happy thing here. This is very displeasing in the eyes of Yahweh, because Yahweh's already killed 2 of his sons. Think about it now. And do you think Yahweh's happy today? In America, Canada, all the white Western European nations of the world, South Africa, Rhodesia, New Zealand, you think Yahweh's happy with the disgorgement of the miscegenation and the mixing of blood? No, he's not. Okay, he tells her in verse 11, go to your father's house, tell Selah my little son be grown, for he said, lest peradventure he die also as his brothers did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. Now in the process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. And Judah was comforted and went up unto the sheep shearers in Timnah, he and his friend Hira the Adullamite. Now isn't this interesting? Now you go into the book of Jasher and into the book of Jubilee, and you'll find out that Judah had a problem here, okay? The daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. Judah was perplexed. He went and got some wine, and he got drunk, and he went up to the sheep shearers. I know it's not in Genesis, but everything isn't in Genesis. You've got to go to Jasher. You've got to go to the book of Jubilees. You've got to search to prove yourself worthy of understanding. And he's up there sucking down wine. I don't know if it's Ripple. I don't know if it's Mogan David. Maybe it's Mogan David with the 6-pointed star, since he interbred and mongrelized with this Canaanitish bitch. Maybe he's drinking Mogan David. But he's up there and he's got a buzz on. Because Judah liked to drink and he liked to fight. That's 2 things, and he liked to play around. That's Judah. Those were the things he liked most. Well, let's read on and see what happens here. Verse 13, and it was told to Tamar, saying, behold, thy father-in-law Judah goeth up to Timnah to shear his sheep. And she put her widow's garments off from her, covered her with a veil, wrapped herself, and sat in an open place which is by the way going to Timnah. For she saw that Shelah was growing. Shelah was growing. Now this is very, very, very important, okay? The son was growing. Years had gone by here. Shelah was growing, and Tamar knew what was going to happen. What was going to happen? That Judah was going to tell Tamar to come back and sleep with Shelah, who was a mamzer, who was a bastard, and have offspring. Tamar was a purebred. Because she saw that Shelah was growing, and she was not given unto him to wife. And when Judah saw her sitting on the wayside, he's sucking down his Mogan David, okay? He's got a buzz. He thought her to be a harlot, because she had covered her face. And he turned unto her by the way and said, go to, I pray thee, let me come in unto thee. Hey, baby, I got a little buzz here, and you look pretty nice. I can't see your face, but I don't really care, you know, because I just like to jump every now and then and have this, you know, and I like to fight and drink and have women. And I really don't know you, and I can't even see what you look like, and I really don't care because I'm all boozed up. Just like the boys in the bar today. After 5, 6, 7 beers, that ugliest woman in the bar looks like Marilyn Monroe sitting there. Well, let's read on. For he knew not that it was his daughter-in-law, and she said, what will you give me, that you may come in unto me, that you may lay with me and seduce me? What are you going to give me? And Judah said, I will send you a kid from the flock. In other words, I'll give you a little goat. And she said, what? Will you give me a pledge till you send it? In other words, she said, what are you going to give to me now until I get this little kid from the flock, this little goat? You're going to give me something to make sure that your deal's going to be fulfilled here. See? Like an IOU. Like an IOU. And he said, what pledge shall I give you? And she said, the signet that you're wearing around your neck, which is the crystal of the tribe of Judah. All the sons of Jacob had it. And your bracelets. I want your bracelets too. And the staff that you have in your hand. Because everyone had a staff not only for walking in that. What was that a staff also used for? War and fighting and protection. Like cane fighting. Later cane fighting become of that. Okay? Cane fighting was an art. Some canes had pistols in them. Some canes had a knife at the end. Okay? And the staff that is in your hand, so he gave it to her. So he gave her what? The signet, the bracelets, and his staff. Is this correct? And he came into her, he seduced her, and she conceived by him. And she arose and went away, and she laid by her veil from her, and put on the garments of her widowhood. Tamar is a pretty smart lady. At least she had enough common sense of wanting pure seed. See what I'm talking about? And she knew that Judah was held very high in the house of Jacob Israel, even though he did this dastardly thing, that a covenant had already been given to Judah from Abraham. Okay, let's read on. And Judah sent the kid by the hand of his friend, the Adullamite. So in other words, Judah went and got a kid from the flock. And he's going to send the kid with his friend now, this little goat, to fulfill the pledge, the deed, and then get his what? His signet, his bracelets, and his staff back. Okay? That was being held as an IOU for having you to her. And to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he found her not. She wasn't there. And then he asked the men of that place, saying, well, where is the harlot that was openly by the wayside here? And they said, there was no harlot in this place. We don't know what you're talking about. There's nobody here. And he returned to Judah, Judah the man, not Judah the landmass, tribe mass yet, and said, I can't find her. And also the men of the place said there was no harlot in this place. And Judah said to her in verse 23, let her take it to her, lest we be shamed. Behold, I send this kid, and you have not found her. He said, my God, you're going to bring shame on me. Bring shame on him? He had already brought shame on himself by having 3 bastard sons from the Canaanitish woman. Verse 23. 24. And it came to pass about 3 months after that it was told to Judah, saying, Tamar, thy daughter-in-law, has played the harlot. And behold, she is with a child by whoredom. See, she's starting to show. And Judah said, bring her forth and let her be burned. Because see, that's what they did. They lit a big fire, and they threw the woman on the fire. How many women you think, how big of a fire you think we'd have to have in this country to take care of that problem? Pretty big one, don't you think? I bet we have to cut a lot of trees down. Yeah. Okay, let's read on. Well, we won't get into that one right now. Verse 25. And she was brought forth, and she sent to her father-in-law, saying, by the man whose these are, am I with a child? And she said, discern, I pray thee, whose are these? And there was the signet, the bracelets, and the staff. And Judah acknowledged them. Why? Well, because they were his. And he said, she has been more righteous than I. Because that I gave her not to Selah my son, and she knew her again. He knew her again no more. He admitted that she was more righteous than him, laying with him to have a baby than he was for the mongrelization that he did having those bastard children. Oh, but you go in these restaurants today in the United States and all over, and you see grandma coming in now, 55, 60 years old, and she's got this little niglet with her. Okay? And she's got this little niglet, and she's coming in, and she's so happy, and everybody in the restaurant's looking at the little niglet. Oh, isn't that a cute little baby? Oh. And there's that little burr head, okay? The little burr head, this little niglet, and you can tell what it is, and everyone is just so happy, instead of scorning this woman that her daughter went out and polluted her womb to have this mongrel child. Because 40, 50 years ago, there wouldn't be a grandma bringing a niglet into a restaurant. There would be shame. But you see how far this country's come. And this is also taking place in Germany and all over the white nations of the earth, because of Judeo-Christianity teaching everyone that it doesn't matter what color of skin you are or who you are. We're all from Adam. And underneath the skin, we're all the same. But then again, if that's the truth, why do blacks have sickle cell? Only blacks get sickle cell if we're all the same. Why do Jews get Tay-Sachs disease if we're all the same? Whites, the white race, can't get sickle cell or Tay-Sachs unless you've had a blood transfusion, or unless you had foreign blood that has entered into your body. Common sense and logic, see? Well, let's read on. Where are we at? 27. And it came to pass in the time of her travail that, behold, twins were in her womb. And it came to pass when she travailed that the one put out his hand. They were trying to get out. Okay, there's twins in there. There's not much room in there, right? And it's time for her to give birthing. It's called giving birthing. And it says here in 27, behold, there were twins. And it came to pass when she travailed that one put his hand out of his mother's womb. And the midwife took and bound upon his hand around his wrist. What did she tie? A scarlet thread, saying, this one come out first. 29. And it came to pass as he drew his hand back in, he brought his hand back in his mother's womb. He's got a little thread around it now, a scarlet thread, right? His brother came out whole. And she said, how have you broken out? What are you doing coming out of here? The other one was coming out, and I tied a thread around his hand. He brought his hand in. All of a sudden, the other one come out. She said, how have you come out instead of him? This breach be upon thee. Therefore, his name was called Pharez, which means a breach. Because in the original Hebrew, it's numerical and descriptive. Okay, the language is numerical and descriptive in Hebrew. Every name had a meaning. And we carried that as a race, even out of the Babylonian, the Assyrian bondage, heading westward into Europe, the names, cobbler, okay, shoemaker. Heck, I've even known people called their last name Shoemaker. Guess what they made when years had gone by? It was a shoemaker. I mean, isn't that hard? Isn't that difficult? Okay, and verse 30. And afterward came out his brother that had the scarlet thread upon his hand, and his name was called Zerah. Now they're twins. And Judah had these pure-blooded boys, twins, Pharez and Zara. Zara came out with a thread around his wrist. The midwife said, oh, this one come out first. He's entitled to the kingship, the lineage of Judah. And the other people said, no, Pharez was born whole first. He is to be the king of Judah. You're talking the kingship for the rulership of the earth. Earth. Being the pure offspring of Judah. Now, this is so important because as I'm in this course here, and I can stay here for a long time, but I just can't because of time. If don't go there. But in Luke chapter 3, when you go to Luke chapter 3, and we will be going there, you'll notice that Judah had 3 sons by this Canaanitish woman, right? And the firstborn is always to get what? The inheritance. Is this right? You will not find those 3 names mentioned in the pure genealogy of the kingship, priesthood of Israel in chapter 3 of the book of Luke. This is very important. And you will not find Zara's name there either, but you will find Pharez. And Pharez was selected as the firstborn. Zara resented it. Zara always said, I'm the firstborn. I deserve to be a head of the tribe of Judah, the king lineage of the Jacob Israel. There was terrible between the Zerahites and the Pharezites, or the descendants of Pharez and Zara. There was a great, what would you call it, calamity of jealousy complex, right? Now, people say, well, what happened then? Well, boy, this is getting interesting. How did they go to war against each other? Or what did they do? Did they live together? They couldn't live together. It was so great. The animosity was so great. The bitterness was so great, they could not live by each other. And when our race came out of Egypt, out of bondage under Moses, years ago, that's when the Zarahites split off. They split off from all of Israel, and they went down into what you call an area down in Spain. And from Spain, of course, we'll talk about that, they went to Ireland and Scotland. Okay? Now, why is this important? It's very important, because everything is for you to know and to understand. And the lineage of Judah, which is the royal tribe of the house of Jacob Israel, it says that Abraham had a covenant with Yahweh, and many kings would come out of the loins of Abraham, handed down to Isaac and to Isaac's offspring. Many kings of many nations would take place. The Jews never had nations. They never had kings. They never had any land. They were wanderers and nomads as the curse was put on them until they stole the land from the Palestinians in 1947 through the Balfour Declaration. Now we're entering another level here of understanding, and there's so much here I can't cover all that I want to cover, because we would sit here for 2 days. Okay? But it's all wonderful, and it's all has to be put into the proximity of understanding, is what this is all about. Now, we know here that a covenant was made with Abraham. Is this correct? A covenant was made with Abraham. Was it a perpetual covenant? It was a covenant to be forever. Is this correct? And a promise was made that he would change his name from Abram, singular, to Abraham, plural, because many kings and people and a multitude of nations would come from the ancestry, from the loins offspring of Abraham. Is this right? This is right, right? Right. Now we realize that as Abram and Sarai had Isaac in turn, because we've also read that this covenant would be handed down to Isaac. Did we read that? And to his offspring forever. Did we read that? Okay, we bound that. Now we got back in, and we got back in with the birth of Judah, the fourth son of Leah. Is this correct? Jacob's wife. Is this correct? And now from Judah, the fourth-born son of Leah, we have gone in and we have what? We have circumvented and we have isolated that Judah laid with Tamar and brought forth 2 children, Pharez and Zara. Is this correct? Correct. And that Zara had a scarlet string tied around his wrist, and there's a dispute here as to the firstborn, which is very important, because all of the power goes to the firstborn according to the law of Yahweh. Is this correct? Correct. Okay. This is where we're at right now. Very important. They tell you that all these tribes of Israel are lost. God lost his children. That's what they're telling you. The Jews are Judah. Okay? Yeah. We're God's chosen, you know. But Almighty Yahweh, who created the earth, He created the air, He created ice and snow, He opened up the treasures of heaven, as the prophet and patriarch Enoch writes about. He forgot 10 tribes of his kids. He don't know where they're at. When he says, I know how many hairs are on your head and when a bird falls out of its nest. Yahweh's not lost. Our race is lost because of Judeo-Christianity and religion, which is controlled by the Jews of the world today. All religions. This is the problem. It's not that you think Yahweh, who knows everything, has lost his children. No. Yahweh, who is perfect in all ways, has lost 10 tribes of his children. Can you imagine this? Now, what kind of a so-called God would lose 10 tribes of his children on the earth when he created the earth, and he said he knew them before they were in their mother's womb, before the foundations of the earth? And the people sit there and they buy these lies. They listen to these lies and they believe them. Yahweh hasn't lost his people. Yahweh's people have lost Yahweh. And when you want to tell them about it, they get very abusive. They get very nasty sometimes. And here you are giving them a wonderful mystery, telling them the most beautiful truth in the world, not only who Yahweh is, but who they are. That they're a daughter of Yahweh. That they're a son of Yahweh. That we are, i.e. the chosen people on the earth. Oh, we get up and say, we, the racial covenant identity people, we are Yahweh's people on the earth. We are the kings and the princes of the lineage of Abraham and the covenant that was given to Abraham upon this earth. Oh, they say, oh, you're a supremacist. You're a white supremacist. You're a hater. And then the Jew gets up and says, oh, we're the supremacists. We're God's chosen people. With their little faggot voice. And everyone says, oh yeah, we'll let the Jews be the supremacists. We'll let them be God's chosen people. And we'll be the dirtballs. And we'll let them rob us. And we'll let them teach their mongrelization. We'll let them steal our money system. We'll let them take and send our boys and daughters, our sons and daughters, to undeclared wars for the Jews in the Mideast or where they are or do what they are. We'll let them feed all these chemicals in our food to us and make us sterile and all blah, 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 blah. And we'll let the Jews who perpetrated the mind thought of abortion clinics, we'll let them take and abort 40 million of our babies and children in America alone, not counting all of Western Europe, nor counting Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Rhodesia. We'll let them do that. So you see, what they're doing is they're trying to make us the heretics. They're trying to make us the evil people. We're not the evil people. We are Yahweh's people, and we know that. But they know that we know that they know that we know that they know. See, this is the big difference. And that's why they hate us. Because they can't pull any wool over our eyes. Politically, religiously, historically, financially, geopolitically. They can't pull any wool over our eyes because we see through their lies. Because Yahweh has taken us out of darkness, not understanding, and brought us into a marvelous light of all understanding of these things. And that's why they despise us and don't like us, because we know who's who and who's Jew. Now, there could have been years ago you could have said to yourself, am I right and the whole world is wrong? When you get this knowledge, or is the whole world right and I'm wrong? Hundreds of thousands of people have asked themselves, am I right in knowing this and the whole world's wrong? What did Yahweh say about those who love the world? Yahweh said, one with me is the majority. And you can't serve two masters. You got to serve one or the other. The only problem we have is having to live in this filth out here until the time of what? The time of judgment and reckoning is brought to a close by Yahweh. We've got to try and continue to go to the lost sheep of the house of Jacob, Israel, to feed the sheep. The Jews can't be lost if they say they're Israel, which they're not. We're sent to the lost sheep of the house of Jacob, Israel. Well, in order for Jacob, Israel to go to his sheep, they've got to be lost. They don't know who they are. It can't be the Jews because they're liars and they say they are. This is very important. Because in Matthew 15, the Yahweh commanded in a flesh body, go unto the lost sheep of the house of Jacob, surnamed Israel, and his offspring. And what? Wake them up to what's going on around them. Very important. Very important. Now, where are we at? Okay. Turn with me to Matthew chapter 1. Matthew 1. Now, that's not going to be hard to find because that's in front of Matthew 2. I'm making it easy here. Chapter 1 of Matthew, verses 1 to 3. Everybody there? Okay. We're going to read it. Chapter 1 of Matthew, what they call the New Parchments. It says, the book of the generation of Yahweh, the seed of David, who was a seed of who? Abraham. Uh-oh, we got a lineage here. We got a racial lineage here. This is very important. And it says, this is the Gineah, this is the book of the race of Yahweh, who is this come from as the seed out of David, who was the seed of Abraham. We know there was a covenant, is this right? And that Abrahamic covenant covered Isaac, and it covered Isaac's generation and his seed forever. Is this correct? Okay. Verse 2. And Abraham begot Isaac. Is this correct? And Isaac begot Jacob, who was surnamed Israel. And Jacob begot Judah, not Judas. The translator put Judas. It was Judah. And Jacob begot Judah and his brothers. So you can just cross out Judas, which is a lie, it's a mistranslation, and put Judah there. And Jacob begot Judah and his brothers. Jacob never bared a Judas. Never. Well, let's read on. Now, you see, there we go to 3. And Judah, not Judas, Judah begot Pharez and Zara. Now, did I prove to you that the translators lied here? And the Baptists say, oh, everything's right in this book. Oh, everything's perfect. There's no mistakes here. I just pointed it out to you. Yeah. Huh? Yes. Okay. So here we are. And Judah begot Pharez and Zara. Why is Pharez's name spoken and listed before Zara? He's got the birthright. Of Tamar, and Pharez begot Esrom, and Esrom begot Aram, and this is another lineage here, okay? Now, reading this and understanding this, that Yahweh came in a flesh body of the lineage of David, who was the lineage of Abraham. Purity of seed. And Judah is what? The Lion of Judah. And I'm going to show it and prove it to you with symbols. I'm going to prove to you what this means as a cultural flag and many other things here this afternoon and this morning. Because we have so much to discourse about and to be happy about and to understand. There was no Judas here. His name was Judah. And what does that mean? Praise. If you're of Germanic, Irish, and Scottish ancestry, you are of the tribe of Judah, and you are to praise Yahweh. O Israel. Now, it doesn't mean if you're of Issachar, Finland, or if you're of Dansmark, okay, or of Norway, okay, or Simeon of Spain, that you're not, well, wonderful sons and daughters of Yahweh. It's just that a covenant was made for Judah that was not made with them. It's nothing to get jealous about. It just happened, and it's still in force today. Now, David was of the lineage of what? Judah. And Judah is the king lineage of Israel. And since Yahweh was born of the lineage of David and the son of Abraham, he come through the lineage of being a king of kings. Think about it. What king of kings? The king of Israel, of his people on the earth, and to be king over all kings of the nations of Israel. He didn't come here to be a king over the king of Kuga Buga in the darkest part of Muga Wuga, Africa. He came to be king over his people. And we're not all from Adam and Eve. Adam and Eva. Those were our great grandfathers and grandmothers of our lineage, of our blood. Now, where are we at? Now I want you to just kind of hold your place here and go to Luke chapter 3 with me. Because sometime I like to drive nails deep. And I like to drive them so deep that you don't forget about them. And many times in my discoursement and lecture, you'll hear me repeat myself. It's not that I'm getting Alzheimer's. It's what I'm doing. I'm repeating this for a reason because of its importance for you to remember the significance of the statement. Now, as we go into chapter 3 of Luke, there is that genealogy of race. Okay? And it goes into the power, teacher, patriarchs, and prophets of our people when you start as verse 23 of chapter 3 of Luke. And Yahweh, I'm going to take this Jesus out because there is no Jesus, and Yahweh himself began to be about 30 years of age, being as was supposed the offspring of Joseph, which was the offspring of Heli. Why 30 years old? Because the law states explicitly, in order to be the high priest, you had to be at least 30 years of age. And then it goes all the way in. This is all a family tree, a pure blood tree, pure bred tree here. And then it goes all the way up here to verse 33. Which was the seed, the translators put son, seed is offspring, which was the seed of Amminadab, which was the seed of Aram, which was the seed of Ishram, which was the seed of Pharez, which was the seed of Judah. You'll notice that Zara was not mentioned in here. Do you see that? And do you notice that the 3 bastard offspring of the mongrel Canaanitish woman, none of their names are mentioned in here because they were impure and they were pollutants. So who is the king lineage? Who did the king lineage go to here? Pharez, not Zara. Zara was still angry. Okay? It was Pharez, which was the son of Judah, and Judah was the son of Jacob, and Jacob was the son of Isaac. You'll notice Esau isn't mentioned in here, even though he was the firstborn, because he what? Sold his birthright to Jacob. And then he went and he married women. He married all these different women, but he never married one of his own race. And that's where he married into the Canaanitish, and that's why the Jews today of Edom Esau, the 1925 Jewish Encyclopedia, states emphatically that what modern Jewry is Esau Edom. They know. They know. It's just that our race don't know. Okay, and as we can go, we can see that what? Pharez was the son of Judah, verse 34. who was the son of Jacob, who was the son of Isaac, who was the son of Abraham, who was the son of Terah, who was the son of Nachor, Serug, Regu, Pharek, Eber or Heberu, the son of Salah, and we can keep going up to Enoch. We can go all the way up to verse 38, who was the son of Enos, who was the son of Seth, and Seth was the son of Adam, and Adam was the son of Yahweh. So you're an Adamite too. And you're an Eberite, which the word Hebrew came from, or Hebrew or Eber. And you're also a Shemite. You're not anti-Shemitic. The Jew of today is anti-Shemitic. They are liars again. They are not Shemites. We can't be anti-Shemitic because we're the blood descendants of Shem, down through Abraham. Well, anyway, we're going to continue here. Now, we got that. Now, we covered a little ground here today. Okay? And we're not done yet. We still got more to talk about. We still got more to share with the listening audience, and we're happy they're with us today. Everybody happy they're with us wherever they are? Huh? That's right. That's right. We love them too. They may not be here in body, but they're here in spirit, and that's what matters. Okay? Now, we're going to take here, and I'm going to go into James, the book of James, chapter 1. James chapter 1. Take your time, you'll find it. We got time. We're going to go into the book of James. And this is so important. It says in verse 1 of chapter 1, James, a servant of Yahweh, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greetings. Now, they tell you that Yahweh lost 10 tribes of his children. James knew who they were. James wrote to them right here. This is who the whole book of James is written to. James, writing to the 12 tribes of what? Israel, which are scattered abroad, which means they are gone away from where James is writing this. In the Mideast. They're already gone. And he's writing this in 60 A.D. This is important. Now in 60 A.D., if you got a center concordance there, James is writing to the 12 tribes of Jacob, Israel, which are scattered abroad because they've already come out of the Assyrian and the Babylonian bondage, and they went, as Jeremiah the prophet said, toward the going down of the sun, which is westward toward the misty isles. James is writing this in 60 A.D. Why is that important? Because in 90 A.D., Emperor Titus came in and leveled Jerusalem and slew all the Jews, as you called Jews, that were living in Jerusalem. Now, James wrote this A.D. 60, 30 years before Emperor Titus came in and leveled Jerusalem. Israel was already gone into what you call Europe. The Jew of today says that's when Jewry scattered all over the earth when Emperor Titus came, and they all went everywhere. That's another lie. They were already gone at 60 A.D. Emperor Titus never came in until 90 A.D. and routed and slaughtered the Jews in that part of Jerusalem. This is very important. Extremely important. Because they were already abroad. They were already gone out of that area. Do you see where I'm coming from here? The significance of why it's so important? Okay. What we're going to take here, we're going to take a little break. And we're going to come back from the break. And then we're going to have the second part of the lecture, which is going to be more exciting than the first part. Okay? And we're going to put a cap on it. And we're going to have fun, because to learn and to understand is fun. It should be fun. Now, a lot of people say, you know, Pastor Wickstrom, I'm never going to learn as much as you. That isn't the point. Just make sure you learn who Yahweh is and who you are, and you learn to love Him and obey Him. Every star shines different. This is the key. And Yahweh gave you a great commandment. Love one another as I have loved you. This is very important. So we're going to take a break right now, and we're going to come back after we have victuals and have communion, okay? And those of you watching on tape, we'll be back in just a moment. I'd like to welcome you back to the lecture forum today, the Lion of Judah. And we have gone into a deep discoursement today on lineage, which is important, extremely important. It's the most important of all things. But you know, I said a picture's worth 1,000 words, and now we're going to put the final touches on our lecture today. Before we do, I'm James Wickstrom, a teacher of Yahweh, P.O. Box 102, Rhodes, R-H-O-D-E-S, Michigan 48652. My email is jameslonestar@AOL.com. My email website is www.jameswickstrom.com. That's James Wickstrom, WICKSTROM.com. So, with that, I wanted to also bring up today, for those of you listening out in tape land, and for those who are here, we are going to be celebrating the Feast of Passover here this coming April. We will be celebrating it on the 2nd and 3rd of April, starting at sundown on Friday, which is April 1st. Then April 2nd and 3rd, and I believe at this time that Pastor Jack Noah Fredericks is pretty well committed to coming here. It would be nice if he could come here. Would you like to see him come here? Huh? And we'll have other speakers too, and people from different parts of the country. Now, would you shut that down for just a moment, please? Okay, we're back in our study here today of the Lion of Judah. And before I go any further, as I was saying, we're going to have Passover here the 2nd and 3rd of April. Starting at the 1st of April, sundown, we'll probably have an evening situation or whatever, like we normally do. And then on the 2nd and the 3rd, we'll be starting at 10 o'clock in the morning, as we do. And we usually go till 5:30 on a Saturday. Then we start at 10 o'clock on a Sunday. And we usually go till 4:30. And we do that for a reason, to give people the opportunity who have traveled here to get on the highway and give them some time so they can head back to where they've come from. We'll also have communion. We'll have the soldier's ransom, as we are commanded by Yahweh to do. As we start into the second phase of our lecture here today, I'd like you to open with me to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51. Now, this is very important. And Jeremiah the prophet, the latter-day prophet, he was the youngest prophets of all the prophets, Jeremiah was. And we're going to go into chapter 51, and we're going to go and start in verses 17 through 23. Now, this was a statement by Yahweh to His people through His prophet Jeremiah. It was actually Jeremiah, because the J is synonymous. It's the Y. My grandma, who came from Scandinavia, used to call me Yimmy. You couldn't call me Jimmy, the J. You call me Yimmy, the Y. The Y is an ancient Hebrew, a dialectic form of our language. It's also a true Hebrew. Now, in Jeremiah 51:17, please read along with me. Every man is brutish by his knowledge. Even founder is confounded by the graven image, for his molten image is falsehood, and there is no breath in them. He's talking about statues now and things you wear around your neck and upside down bathtubs in your lawn with a statue in it with lights in it and stuff like that, okay? St. Christopher medals and all this stuff. Yahweh said you are not to have any image of anything, whether in the heavens or the earth. Now, verse 18, they are vanity. The work of errors in the time of their visitation, they shall perish. The portion of Jacob Israel is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and Jacob Israel is the rod of his inheritance, and Yahweh of hosts is his name. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war, saith Yahweh. For with thee will I break in pieces the nations, and with thee will I destroy the kingdoms or the evil governments. And with thee will I break in pieces the horse and his rider, and with thee will I break in pieces the chariot and his rider. This chariot could be armored personnel carriers today, automobiles or trucks or anything like that. Verse 23, and with thee, or with you also, will I break in pieces man and woman. And with you will I break in pieces the old and the young. And with you will I break in pieces the young man and the maid. And I will also break in pieces with you the shepherd, or the false pastors and ministers who have lied to our people, and his flock. And with you will I break in pieces the husbandman and his yoke of oxen. And with you will I break in pieces the captains and the rulers, or those who rule over you in vanity and are in vain and have taught errors and performed treason in our land. So you see, Yahweh says that with Jacob Israel and with the Lions of Judah, the true people of Yahweh, the sons and daughters, He's going to break in pieces. Now, a good point was brought up at me at lunch today. I talked about Abram being called Abraham from singular to plural because kings would come from his loins and many nations. Is this correct? And Sarai was changed to Sarah because it means that she is a princess of Yahweh. So that means that all the daughters of Sarah are princes in the eyes of Yahweh. If the men are to be kings and princes, Sarah's daughters are to be princesses of Yahweh. It's very simple. You know, it's very simple of who we are to be and how we are to live. But you know, our prosperity can't be given to everybody. We're not to have strangers come in and rule over us. I don't hate the Orientals. I don't hate the blacks. It's just that they're not to live among us. We're not to breed with them, and they're not to be here living in our land. Yahweh said the strangers, the Nakri, the Zahar, who are not of your race, are not to live among you. They are not to live off your prosperity. Now, this is the commandment in the law. This is what it is. I believe that the Asiatics, the pure-blooded Asiatics, have every right to rise up against Jewry in the world and slay them. I believe that all the blacks have a right to rise up against Jewry and to slay them for how they've been used. But I don't want them to live with me. Number one, because Yahweh says it, and number two, because I don't want it. And this is what it's all about. That's when our country was great, when the white Western European culture and the morals and the ethics reigned in America, is when we had prosperity. But because of the compassion and the false teachings of the church, of false churches, of Judeo-Christianity in the Catholic Church, the country has been destroyed. And even now the Catholic Church is working very hard to bring tens of thousands of more Mexicans into this country. It is the Catholic Church perpetrating this, just like the Lutheran churches and the rest brought in the Hmong and the South Vietnamese boat people and all the rest. Yahweh says in that day there will not be a stranger that lives among you. The Nachre. No stranger of our race will live among us. We're not to hate them. You can talk to them and everything. We're not to hate them. They're not to live with us. That is it in a nutshell. Okay. Now, Jeremiah chapter 51, 17 to 23 told you what Yahweh is going to use his sons and daughters for. Is this correct? And what he's going to do with his sons and daughters to clean up problems. Now Yahweh says that his kingdom, which means government and administration of his law, statutes, judgments, and ordinances, will come in with violence by the hand of his people, Jacob, Israel. And you shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and forever. We will never again, as a people, forget who we are or who Yahweh is. This is for all the marbles out here. This is not for no 1,000 years and then Satan's going to be released. This is right now. That's already been done. This is for all the marbles right now. For forever. Now, would you come up and stand over here, please? I'd like to get into some some information here. Would you grab that picture, please? And you know, remember we said that Judah is a lion's whelp? I want you to turn to Genesis 49 with me as I hold this picture up. I told you that, you know, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to go to Genesis 49. And I want you to listen very carefully. And we're going to read verses 8 to 10. And when everyone gets there, I'm going to want you to understand, and I'm going to put this picture more in definition for you and understanding. In chapter 49 of Genesis, verse 8, Judah, the Lions of Judah. Remember this. This is our talk on this forum today. The Lions of Judah. Very, very important. I'm looking for my... I know it's here somewhere. Where did I stick that? Hold it up. The Lions of Judah. And how am I going to prove this? Well, I'm going to prove it unequivocally, of course. And if you read into Genesis 49:8, Judah, thou art he whom thy brothers shall praise. Why? It's the king lineage. All the tribes of Israel shall praise Judah. Why else? Because Yahweh comes through the lineage of David of the tribe of Judah, the king lineage. And thy hand shall be in the neck of your enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Now we're going to get into who Judah is in the world. But this is very important that you read what I'm telling you here in Genesis 49, verse 8. Verse 9. Judah is a lion's whelp. Okay? From the prey. My son, thou art gone up. He stooped down. He crouched as a lion. And as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? He's talking about Judah. He's talking about symbolism so you wouldn't forget who you are. This is so important. Verse 9. Verse 10. The scepter. This is the kingship. These are the kings that was talked about Abraham. Many kings shall come out of your loins, many nations. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh is come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Do you understand? Judah is as a lion's whelp, as a roused up lion, as an old lion. But the scepter of power shall never depart from Judah. And all the kings of the white western nations, all of them, Sweden, Norway, Ireland, Germany, France, England, Spain, they all came from Judah, because it was prophesied that it would be a descendant of Judah, of Pharez, who would reign as king over the nations. Now, let's continue on. And didn't Yahweh said, you are my sheep. I put my sheep on the right hand, the goats on the left hand. The whelp of lion, the roused up lion, a fierce fighter, who would be at the neck of his enemies, were also to protect Yahweh's sheep. They would always lead into battle. They were the most fierce warriors on the surface of the earth, and that takes you back to the Scottish, the Irish, and the Germanic people of the earth, the Austrians, of course, and we can go into parts of Switzerland and different parts of Europe, of the great Prussian Empire, which was of Germanic Teutonic blood lineage. So you see, it was all discoursed upon here in Genesis 49, 8 to 10. And what I love about it, as it says that the law and the scepter shall not depart from Judah. David was of the tribe of Judah, and it told you that Yahweh came in a flesh body from the lineage of David, who was the son of Abraham, seed of Abraham, the offspring of Abraham. So you see, this picture has significance. This is the Lion of Judah. This is what we're talking about in our forum today. The lions, the Lion of Judah, and these are his sheep, who Judah, as the kings of the nation, were to what? Fear Yahweh, rule with righteousness, rule with righteous judgment and morality and ethics, to preserve the prosperity and the safety of the sheep. When Judah went to war, when the true Israel went to war, Judah always went first. The other nations gathered together. They were great warriors too, and they fell in behind Judah. But Judah was the spearhead as the lion, who would be at the neck of Yahweh's enemy at all times. Thank you. Now, picture's worth 1,000 words. Now, would you bring me that top one, please? Let's hold that out. Now, this gets very interesting here. Here's the flag of Ireland. Remember the young man whose hand came out from his mother's womb and a scarlet ribbon was tied around his wrist? There were twin sons of Judah, Zerah and Pharez. Zerah's hand came out, a scarlet ribbon was tied around his wrist. He brought his hand back in, but then Pharez was born, remember? Here you have the crouched lion of Judah, of the lineage of Zerah, and the Zerahites are what you would call Irish and Scottish today. And I'm going to break that down. Okay? When you see that sign, you now know your blood lineage. I'm going to say it again. Blood lineage is what this is about. And true national lineage. All right? Next, please. Now, a lot of Scottish and a lot of Irish say, oh, well, you're an Irish and I'm a Scottish. Okay? No. The Scottish and the Irish are the same people. In fact, in ancient history, going back, you will find that Ireland was called Scotha Major. Okay? Ireland was called Scotha Major, and Scotland was called Scotha Minor. It was the Irish who went up on the northern side of England and carved out Scotland. That's why Ireland was called Scotha Major, and Scotland was called Scotha Minor, and it was called Scotha Land. Irish land, but just called Scotha. Scotha Land. Now, remember the hand that came out. and a red ribbon was tied around the wrist. This is the flag of Ulster in Northern Ireland. This is the red hand. Notice the star. Notice the crown of the kingly Zarahites. Notice the red, white, and blue of the stars and bars in the upper left-hand corner, and we will get into that because I have that behind me also. This is the flag of Ulster, Ireland, to prove and depict that Zara Judah, Zara the son of Judah, of the king lineage of Jacob Israel, of the Lions of Judah. Ireland is not Jewish. Ireland is of true Jacob Israel, and they are kings and princes of Yahweh Almighty Father, Yahweh Almighty God. Thank you. Next, please. Now we're going back into some old stuff here. Now if you walk the streets of Ireland, in Dublin, or other places, okay, you will find little signs and brackets above the shop doors yet, which will show a hand with a red string or thread around the wrist, depicting what I told you right here. Now, this is lions running rampant. This is from Scotta land, Scotta Minor land. Remember, Ireland was Scotta Major. Scotland was Scotta Minor. And they then called it Scotland. Okay? Now, I want to show you something which is so interesting here. Here you have the red crouched lion of Zara Judah. Ye are my battle axes and weapons of war, saith Yahweh. Notice the claws. This lion is not coming to have a cup of tea. He is a fierce warrior. He is out to do battle. Do you see that? Okay? That tongue is sticking out. And he is a warrior of warriors. Over here is his cousins. The yellow crouched lion of Judah, of Pharez, of the king line of Luke chapter 3 that we went into. This is the royal standard of Scotland. Down here, lift this up just a little, is the harp of David. Yes, the same King David that we talked about in Matthew 1-3, that Yahweh was of the lineage of David, and David was the offspring of Abraham. Here is the harp of David on the royal flag of Scotland. And here, of course, is Pharez again. You'll notice again the lions, the running lions rampant. Those claws are out. That tongue is out. They're there to do battle. Ireland, Scotland, and the Germanic states are the royal kings and princes of the house of Jacob Israel. Isn't that a beautiful flag? So when you see this and understand this, you fully immediately know who's who, who's Jew, and who the true kings and the true, i.e. chosen people of Yahweh God are upon this earth. This flag should be flown on every piece of property of which a Scotman and a Scotwoman, or an Irishman and an Irish woman, because they're of the same lineage of Zara Judah, of Scotta Major and Scotta Minor. Thank you very much. Now, that's going back into history, all those symbols, see? But remember, we just told you, may I have that pipe? Thank you. Now remember what I told you, that Genesis 49, verses 8 to 10. I told you we're going into an educational forum here that should be taught in every major university, with the auditoriums packed with 10,000 people to hear a discoursement of true history and understanding of who's who and who's Jew. And then we'd start to see the problem in our land and who's causing the problem. These Jews who have stole our money system, lied about, i.e. Jesus being a Jew, of which there is no Jesus, there is only Yahweh. He was the Almighty Father. And secondly, the Jews are not chosen, the chosen people. They're chosen fertilizer. Because Yahweh says through Zephaniah that no Canaanite shall be left in the house of Yahweh in the end day. They will all be put to death. Enoch, the great patriot, seventh born from Adam, stated explicitly that in that day all the Canaanites shall die in the land. And Yahweh, in a flesh body, said to what you call Jews, He said, you, Jews, are responsible for all the righteous blood shed in the earth from Abel to Zechariah. Who slew Abel? Cain. He locked their lineage in to be in the descendants of Cain the murderer. The Jews aren't God's chosen. They've never been, and they never will be. And they have never been the true Hebrews. They have never been the true Israelites. They have never been the true Semites. But the white Western European peoples and nations are Yahweh's people. We are. But controlled religion has destroyed the knowledge of us as a people, and thus the Jews keep bringing the mongrels in among us as a fifth column to fight us in a day of time and trouble. Now, I was down to Sergeant Major John Roberts' Feast of Tabernacles last fall, and I did a discoursement on this lecture, but I never got it on film. And it's interesting. Sergeant Major John Roberts is a very interesting man. He retired 23 years out of the Green Beret. He had 5 tours in Vietnam. Never suffered a gunshot wound. Was involved behind enemy lines many times. Okay? And has many awards. A very honest and devoted man. I gave him and his wife, Elaine, their identity about 12 years ago. And since then, they have grown into great proportions, doing a great job down there in Tennessee, and even to the point of holding the feast days. And while I was there, a gentleman came, and I had met this gentleman about 7 years prior. He was actually a German immigrant after World War II, came as a young man. He was in the Hitler Youth of Germany. And he knew what the Jew was, of course, being that he lived in Germany. He knew how the Jews had stolen everything in Germany before the rise of the Third Reich from the German people. You know, Germany was to be for Germans. Isn't that hard? Not Jews. And the Jews stole everything, stole their banks, stole their money, stole their companies, just like they did here in America and in the other white Western European nations. Well, he was going to leave because his brother was sick down in Georgia. But he knew I was coming, so he waited for me to get there because he wanted to talk to me, which was very kind. He was in his 70s. His health wasn't good. Speaks broken English with German dialect. And as we sat on the porch, we were talking and discoursing about a few things, and he said, I have something to show you. And I said, well, what is it? And he reaches in his pocket, and he pulls something out of his pocket, and he said, back in the late 1980s, he said, in one of the shipyards in the Carolinas, 2 German ships of war came and spent a week at our ports from Germany. They were frigates. They were like destroyers, ships of war from Germany. And he said, as I went aboard, he said, I looked at the uniforms they wore, and they had a patch on their uniforms. And more interestingly, they had a big picture on each side of the bow of their ship, which was about 8 feet tall and about 6 feet across. I said, yes, and I'm being patient here, because he hadn't showed me what he was going to give me. He said, you know, I knew all about the Jews and what they did in Germany and what they've done here. And when you gave me my identity and you told me about Judah and you took me further back into knowledge, he said, and that I was the son of Yahweh of the tribe of Judah. And he said, I had to come and see you because I knew you'd be here and I wanted to show you this. And he had this thing in his hand, and he turned his hand over like this to me, and in his hand was a patch. And this patch was this. of which I have enlarged and encased in a frame. This was the seal that was on the sides of the bows of those 2 German warships. That one, okay? And this was the patch that the German sailors were wearing on their uniforms that were in that port in the Carolinas back in the late 1990s. And this is what it is. It's the frigate, the warship, Byron. Byron is in the southern province of Germany. In fact, it's, let me get this right. I got to get this right. You'll notice it has, this comes from Bavaria, Byron, the Bavarian Alps in southern Germany, Bavaria. There's the Alps, there's the mountains, okay? It comes from an area, Byron of Bavaria. That is their seal, the blue lion, crouched lion. And there is their seal of their country. And do you notice what else is in that seal? There is the crouched lion of Phares with its fangs out and its tongue out to do war. And there are the triple lions of Phares, identifying them as Judah, the tribe of true Israel. Now the flags I showed you were ancient flags, old flags of symbolism and heraldry of our people. Here is a modern, is there a glare on that or is it okay?
Put it more towards you.
So I just want you to understand what this meant to me and what it meant to me. The man couldn't stay and even hear the lecture. I said, may I borrow that patch? I promise in Yahweh to send it back to you. Yes, he said, go ahead. He didn't even know what I was going to lecture on that day, the Lion of Judah. And Yahweh delivered him onto the front porch that day to wait for me. 5 minutes after he gave me the patch, of which I've blown up here, him and his wonderful wife left to go to Georgia to see his brother who was sick. They never even stayed for the lecture. So you see, we know who we are. And it's time we took pride in who we are. And that's why I don't stand still and allow people to talk rings around me or hide in the closet or anything regarding my love for Yahweh, who our people are, and how we've been plundered and raped and pilfered by these damn Jews. So you see, there was that German warship. Can you imagine this on the bow, 8 feet high and 6 feet across on both sides? If all of you right now, let's say, just for example, you got up from this lecture and you had to go on a trip and you went out into the Carolinas down to where the shipping docks were, and in comes this ship of war from Germany. Now think about it. And all of a sudden it docks, and you're standing there watching it come in because it's a beautiful vessel, okay? It's a ship of war. And you're looking, and all of a sudden your eyes go out to the bow of that ship, and this was on the bow. You'd know exactly the symbolism, the understanding. Maybe the sailors didn't even fully understand the patch that they were wearing. But see, they were of Judah. Of what? Phares. Of the lineage. In Luke chapter 3, the lineage of Phares. The German Teutonic states are, and they are of Phares. The Irish and the Scottish are of Zara, and they are the lion's whelp that lead Israel into battle, just as the Germans fought these damn Jews in the Soviet Union, and the German nation faced the east, just like it encamps today on the stars and the bars. The German people faced the east. They faced the enemy. Judah always faced the enemy with the rest of the tribes of Israel behind it. But because the Jews had taken over the United States in 1933, totally taken it over with the Jew Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Morgenthau and Colonel House and all the rest, they perpetrated through lies and distortion, creating the 29 Depression, buying up the news media and everything else. They distorted and the lies, and they had our own people go and fight against our own people in Germany to destroy them. When Germany had the Jews and Stalin right by the throat. Isn't this what he said here? Isn't this what the Father says that shall take place? Judah, thou art he whom your brothers shall praise. Your hand shall be at the neck of your enemy. Didn't the Germans have Stalin and the Jew Soviet Union by the neck until Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the other Jews joined in on the Lend-Lease and sent tanks and food and money-making machines and airplanes to that damn butcher Stalin, that Jew, and all the rest to destroy and to butcher off the German nation? And I'm not saying Adolf Hitler was right in whatever he was, or Guggenheimer, or whatever he was, but Germany rose up against the Jew, and they lost 10 million people, exposing the Jews for what they are to the whole world to understand. No one puts down the German nation or the German people to me, because you are what? You are castigating Yahweh, who said that Judah was to be a praise unto all the other people of Jacob Israel. And we went and slaughtered all of our own cousins. And these churches were part of the slaughter, because they never told the German people in America that they were what? These are your cousins. What are you doing going to fight? Go to Washington and hang Roosevelt and the other damn Jews who have stole this nation. I tell you about the Lions of Judah. I tell you about what they are and who they are. And the shame that is upon this nation. The shame upon our people. And even the elderly people in their late 70s and 80s today, the white German people, and the white French people, and the white Italian, and all the other ones that are in this country, Norwegians and all, these damn fools, they still praise Franklin Delano Roosevelt as their hero, as their great white father, is what they call him. They sent their own sons to be butchered in these wars, while the Jews made the money and the harvest off the blood and bodies of our people. And they're still doing it today. And you can walk up and tell them right to their face who they are. You can tell them the truth to their face, the majority of them. And they don't want to hear about it. They want to ostracize you. And they want to make an enemy of you. And I don't care. I'll be their enemy. Because Yahweh says, without me you can do nothing. Now think about these things. You think America has to be proud of what we've done in the past and what we do now? Allowing the butchering of 40 million aborted babies? You want to talk about a Holocaust? You want to be so proud? The state police, they arrest this man for speeding the other day, and they give him a ticket. They'll give you a ticket for 5 miles an hour over, and every day they'll ride by an abortion factory 10 times, and they don't go in and arrest them for murder. The hell kind of justice do you think is in the streets? The justice of the communist Jew is in the streets and in the courtroom and in your U.S. Senate and in your U.S. Congress. And sitting right in the White House is Jewish communism in America. And if we have to be called heretics, so be it. If heretics means that I love Yahweh, that I love Yahweh's people, and we are to be rebels in the land, and speak out against ungodliness, so be it. But for me and my house, just as Joshua said, we stand for Yahweh. And this is how it's going to be. Our people walk around with their backs bent, their heads hanging down. You watch them how they go shopping. There's no pride left in them. There's nothing left in them. And still they want to suck up this filthy Jew communist system in America. This is the forum that should be taught across this nation from border to border and coast to coast. This is the inspiration of racial pride and the purity of blood. that should come forth and rain down upon the sons and daughters of the Most High in this nation and all the other white nations in the world. This is the truth of what Yahweh said should come and be given out in the end day to His people. That we shouldn't be afraid. That if we love Yahweh, we should have no fear. I want you to think about these things. You think of all these Jew communist professors in the universities and the learning institutions. All these stinking Jew filthy bastards is what they are as judges in your country on the Supreme Court and federal courts and state courts, and all these Jew attorneys that walk into these courtrooms with their communist edict against you. Say, oh my, Pastor Wickstrom's swearing now. He called them bastards. Want me to call them something worse? Go into the book of Hebrew. It's in there. They're bastards, Yahweh said. Go and find it in Hebrews. I'm not going to do all your homework. They are bastards. They're mamzers and mongrels in body and in mind and in deed. They are mongrels.
And they're of their father the devil.
And they're of their father the devil, as our father said the word Yahweh in a flesh body. What did he say? You are, what, John 8:44, you are liars, thieves, and murderers, just as your father Satan is. And then he said in John 8:47 to the Jews, you are not even of God. You're not even of Yahweh. Here Almighty Father Yahweh told them right to their face. And you got these churches out there telling them every Saturday and Sunday that the Jews are God's chosen people. Don't do nothing to the Jews or God's going to curse you. Look at your land. Look at your land. It is cursed. I want to also state at this time that Jacob, who was surnamed Israel, had 12 sons. He had one daughter. Her name was Diana. Very beautiful. Very lovely woman. She went shopping into Shechem one day. And one of the rulers of Shechem saw her and seized her and took her in his house and raped her. Just like our daughters of our race are being raped all over America and the white Western European nations. And Diana's brothers was Simeon and Levi. And when she come back, he didn't want to give Diana up, see? And Levi and Simeon went to get her. And you know what he said to them? They said, the guy from Shechem, this mongrel Jew, said, oh, I love Diana. I want her to be my wife. And Levi and Simeon were smart. And they said, well, we have a law among us that you've got to do first. All your men in Shechem have to get circumcised before that can happen. And this guy was really hot on the trot for Diana. He said, okay. Boy, he spoke for everybody. So they circumcised all the males in Shechem and took away their strength. And Simeon and Levi went through the city of Shechem and killed every man in the city for raping their sister. And then they took their sister Diana home. You think America hasn't been raped? You don't think that every dirty, stinking Jew and Mexican and nigger and all the rest shouldn't be put to death for raping our people? When are you going to learn compassion and understanding for your race and for Yahweh? When are you going to feel the grief of the suffering of Jacob Israel? Don't be afraid to talk about it to people. They don't like it, to hell with them. You've witnessed to them, and they're putting sand and fire on their own head. I trust Yahweh for my safety, for my continuance. I feel when it's my time to go home, Yahweh will take me home, and nobody will touch me or do nothing to me till my Father Yahweh permits it. And when you start feeling the same thing, and you put your trust and your heart and your love to Yahweh, then we'll see a standard rise in the land against Jewry and against the race traders of our own people. And then you're going to see a cleansing come from Yahweh when people will bend their knee and every tongue shall confess. Confess what? Their sins to Yahweh. And he said, then shall I hear your prayers and I shall heal your land. But don't forget what he said. You will take the kingdom with violence by the hand of my people Jacob, Israel. And you shall take the kingdom, government and administration, and you shall possess it forever and forever, saith Yahweh. That's about all that's left in this book of all the prophecies. Is for it to get so bad, they're going to listen to you. Not 1, 10. And those 10 are going to go out and tell other people, and they're going to come and talk to you. And they're going to come and talk to you. And they're going to come and talk to you. And it's going to grow, because the Father said it'll start the size of a mustard seed. The smallest seed on the earth shall my kingdom start, and it shall grow to the greatest vine that this earth has ever seen. And that's a racial vine. And all religion will be destroyed, and every filthy Judeo-Christian church of every religion is going to be cast down and destroyed in this nation, including the Freemasonic lodges and the Odd Fellows, and all the others are going down. There's going to only be one allegiance for our race, and that's the allegiance to Yahweh. The first commandment, thou shalt love Yahweh with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy strength, and you shall have no one or nothing in front of Yahweh. That is what He's waiting for. That's what He's waiting for from His people. You think they want this forum that I've just given you today in their universities? You think they want the young people to have the opportunity to hear it? Even to hear it? No, I don't think so. I don't think so either. But you see, it doesn't matter what they want. Yahweh says that His people are going to wake up. And they're going to wake up. Bar none. Bar none. And there's going to be a war in this land. Border to border and coast to coast. I can't wait. Because either I'm going to stay here and keep fighting in it, or I'm going to go back to Yahweh, and I'll come back with my friends. Because Enoch the patriot said that angelic beings in that day shall descend upon the earth and shall fight alongside the children of light and annihilate the children of darkness from off this earth. And Zephaniah says there shall not be a Canaanite left in the house of Yahweh. People say, oh, you come on too strong. You might be losing them now on your lecture. No, I'm not losing anybody. You're either a soldier and a warrior or a coward. Damn it, there's no gray matter. You're either going to be a soldier or a coward. But you see, that's your choice. That's the choice everybody has to make. And I'd rather die a soldier fighting for Yahweh and liberty in America against Jewish communism than dying a coward on my knees and being shot behind my head. Because that's what they've done in the past, and that's what they're planning on here. There's no in-between. There's no in-between.